Hi Nancy, Jackie again. So video number 2, and in this video we are going to focus really on the Academic Search Complete and ERIC databases. Those are the ones, the EBSCO databases that probably I would say have the most resources for your topic. They just have the most content, and they're also specific to education, which is handy. I'm hoping the Gale database made sense to you. That video kind of cut off at the end there, but again, it's just like opposing viewpoints. Click on the article link if you want it. All those same tools for accessing the article are there. So I didn't feel the need to recover that. Again, don't want to bore you to death. So anyway, library homepage, of course, and library databases. Top library databases. We were right here. Now we're going to go to Academic Search Complete. And you might remember, so from Academic Search Complete, we also added the ERIC database. ERIC stands for the Education Resource Information Center. It's actually been around forever. It's been around since the 1960s. And it was actually one of the first library databases. It was created by teachers across the country who wanted to share things like their lesson plans, their ideas, what they were doing in their classrooms, the research that they were doing. So, and it's become kind of in a sense from that original work, like this, full-fledged academic database. So we'll go ahead and click OK here. And in fact, ERIC, I should mention, I'm not sure if you're going into teaching, but ERIC is a database that's actually housed by the Federal Department of Education. So it's a government housed resource, which means it's available to everybody to use. So when I've worked with at schools in the past where the students were going into the teaching field, I would always advise looking at ERIC in the public version because you'll have access to that the rest of your life. Ironically, unless there's a government shutdown. There was a government shutdown, of course, recent ones, but several years ago, I was working at a school in New Hampshire, and we lost access to the ERIC database because the government shut down. And so all my education students were coming to see me, and we had to use different resources for a few days. But anyway, it's there. So just like with everything else, and you probably remember, this is where, what's the terminology that we use to get what we're talking about? And education is really one of those challenging ones because we have so many different words, I think, for the same thing. We'll say teaching, we'll say education, we'll say learning, we'll say students, we'll say different kinds of students in different ways. We'll say high school students, we'll say secondary students, we'll say teenagers, adolescents. So it's some of the subject headings can help us scope down to what we're looking for, but sometimes it's just being really flexible again. So when I started doing this, I started looking at kind of our so what is, it's kind of I don't know if it's about teaching strategies or teaching methods, but in some ways it kind of is. There's also definitely teaching and learning. So there's just, general teaching as well. Or methods, we could also add, or classroom. Oh, in fact, it's already coming up. Classroom. That sort of thing. We didn't talk about anything about learning. And we could certainly do that. So when you do the or, that makes for a big search because the database is going to search for any of those. So teaching strategies or teaching methods or classroom or learning. So it's going to search for all of those concepts, a version of those concepts, which could be helpful if that's what we want to do. And that's different if we did teaching methods and learning. If we did teaching methods and learning rather than or, the database would search for all the articles that covered both teaching methods and learning, which can be really helpful as well. So it'll be a lot narrower because both of those terms need to be there. So, and at this point we could type in technology, and as you technology in the classroom, as we had talked about before when you were here, we could say technology broadly. We can articulate specific technologies from social media to, cell phones to mobile phones to computers, to your pencil, I guess. And then again, being mindful of, especially with technology, the phrasing is changing rapidly from everything from my handheld device, my mobile device, my mobile phone, my cell phone, my smartphone, so it's really it's almost exhausting in some ways. So we can start with this. If you wanted to add any more attributes at this point, you certainly could. Like if you wanted to add distraction, if that's kind of your main thing, or I guess if you were looking at the negative aspects, you could type in negative. Challenges, what are some different words that kind of really address kind of the so what that you're getting for, or you can just hit search and narrow down from there. Interesting. So we came up with a lot of stuff. So we might decide that we want to narrow down right away, right? And this is actually then looking at, I see flipped classroom. That you might know of. It's a really common phrase right now in teaching strategies, is a flipped classroom. What you ask the students to do instead of, it's a little bit more homework heavy. Students do a little bit more outside the classroom. They, practice doing something. And then when they come to class, the class is about, actually working with the instructor to solve those problems, rather than using class time to dump things in your brain. Well, that's done outside of class, because in class is when we, as a class, would practice together with the teacher guiding that lesson. So a couple things to do here, you might remember is, again, you can decide right away that you want to add more words to limit this. We could easily add, and distraction, or, certainly, and that gets us down to 153 if we wanted to. Oh, look at this. Is mobile technology in the classroom a helpful tool or distraction? Fascinating. Using mobile devices in the classroom. So the phrase mobile device seems to be, or mobile technology seems to be popular. So that's certainly one thing you can do. You can also, limit by time frame. So, we probably want to get up to this century. And we're down to 91, actually. That's pretty minimal. Well, this is great. And also the other things you can limit to is, I did limit to peer, no, I did not limit to peer-reviewed journals. Okay, let's do that. That's down to 61, which starts getting things a little bit low, I think, but that's okay. Again, you can uncheck at any time. If you're like, no, I really want to go back and say, I want to look at non-peer-reviewed materials as well, you can click there. You could also look at these subject terms, which is helpful, I think, because it gives you some ideas of how you might want to. It just unclicked on me. Come on, you can click. Really? There it goes. Technology uses in education, handheld devices. Isn't that funny? Teaching methods. So again, student surveys. That'd be kind of interesting to see. What do students think? Secondary education, that's high school, as you probably know, as opposed to college students. Instructional effectiveness. So all those things, if we clicked on any of those, it was student attitudes. What do students think? That's kind of curious. That would take us down to those 11 that look specifically at those topics. And so this is interesting. This one's looking at both social media and Facebook. So if you did your paper on social media and its impact on learning, that'd be really kind of intriguing, actually. So while we're here, let me go ahead and show you, oh, how fascinating, what you would do to actually get these articles. So when you start using the ERIC database, it does come up a little bit differently. And so how the results come up. So one thing I'm seeing right here is full text from ERIC, full text from ERIC. Let's see if any of these are not from ERIC. If not, then I'm going to have to, oh, okay, good. Oh, this says it's from ERIC too, but that's a little bit different. I might have to undo our search to show you my example. Interesting, all of these are from ERIC, very fascinating. But let's go ahead and look at this, because I think this was really one of the things you were interested in. So if you are trying to access something from an ERIC database, how it's a little bit different is that in all our other databases, over here on the left-hand side, you would see a link either to the PDF or the HTML of the article, and you would just click there to retrieve the full article. ERIC, which, as I mentioned, is kind of housed externally by the federal government, the databases help you find the articles, but you have to then actually link out to ericed.gov, the Department of Education, to get these. I always like to right-click and open in a new tab. And yesterday I got this insecure connection thing, which is really weird. I feel like that is actually a federal government thing, not a BMCC thing. I just copied that URL. I'm going to go from here. Really? I'm so curious. So what I'm going to do, actually I'm going to show you probably what you would do the rest of your life as soon as you leave school and not have access. Nope, this is a federal government thing. Fascinating. So it's nothing, it's not attached to BMCC. That's kind of scary. What if I take out the S? Wow, okay. I'm going to look at this and I'll you know, I'm a little nervous here to go and set up. Yeah, the owner of eric.gov has configured their website properly. The government isn't shut down now, is it? I should know this. But that could be why. Anyway, shoot. So I will look into that. But in the meantime, that's normally what you would do, is you would just click there. That's kind of too bad. We might have to do some other searching here. Or we might want to disinclude the ERIC database, actually. And so there's a couple things you can do to kind of correct that right away. I'm going to broaden our search back up. And I'm going to, I can limit to just ones that are found in Academic Search Complete. So we can get around this. Digital devices. Gosh, we didn't even write that down. But this is helpful. Is mobile technology in the classroom a helpful tool or distraction? Great. Let's find out. So smartphones, distraction. So what's helpful here is that this is a whole article. As I mentioned, it's not from Eric, so it's going to be over here on the left, how you would access this. A couple things I want to point out is that if you click on any of these links, that's going to take you to the full, all the articles that map to that idea. And then you can build from there. So if you really wanted to look at the, I don't know, cell phone use and then add, or if you want to look at policies concerning technology, you could click there and then add things like classrooms. But so same thing, you would just click here to get the PDF. And I'll show you real quick. Hopefully real quick. Come on, computer. You can do it. So here's the whole article. Actually, just how it would appear originally in the print magazine. And this database, and it was on the last screen as well, all your tools here on the right. If you want to download the article, it's right here. And I do kind of suggest that. If you wanted to print the article, you would print from here, as opposed to these tools on the right. And the reason for that is if I hit print here, I would get like the first page. I wouldn't get the entire document. But the citation tools right here, cite, find, scroll down to MLA, there you are. Again, you can email this to yourself. So very helpful. The folder can be a little confusing. You would actually have to create an account in EBSCO to use the folder system, but it's really cool and it's handy. So, and it's, you know, pretty easy to do. So anyway, I hope that makes sense there. Let's go back to our results here. So again, if we wanted to take out any of these, I should probably email this article to you. But I can do that in just a second. We can go ahead and change that if we did want to look at specifically, you know, cell phones. Ooh, cell phone addiction, cell phones and social interaction. We could certainly do that. Wow, let's see, we got 212 articles in that regard. More technology, less learning. Wow, really kind of getting at some of those things just by changing the words a little bit. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Again, just email me, call me if you need anything, okay? Okay. And I'm gonna email some of these to you, so stay tuned. Look for these in your email because I can't help myself. All right, Nancy, take care. Bye-bye.